I spent my formative years in a tumultuous household characterized by abusive parents, which instilled a pervasive sense of apprehension within me. I vividly remember the countless sleepless nights consumed by worry about my father's well-being, particularly during periods of deceitfulness. The stability of my parents' marriage and the uncertain future cast a heavy shadow on me, compounded by the unpredictable nature of my mother's moods, often leading to hurtful words and feelings of rejection. Amidst this turmoil, I grappled with the constant tug-of-war between succumbing to my emotions or finding the strength to confront and manage them in the face of overwhelming adversity. Living in a perpetual state of anxiety, I often pondered whether there was a way to begin unraveling the web of continuous worry. After I joined the Pentecostal faith, I came to understand that worrying was viewed as a sin and not in line with the Christian way of life. When I sought guidance on how to overcome worry, the advice I received was to trust Jesus, give it to God, and the assertion that worrying is unhealthy. However, I found that my pastor and other preachers I listened to did not provide me with practical steps to trust Jesus and give my worries to God to alleviate my concerns. Instead, I was often referred to New Testament verses like Matthew chapter 6 verse 25-34 and Philippians chapter 4 verse 6-7, which admonish against worrying. Can you relate to any of these emotions? You might feel skeptical about how reading scriptures can alleviate your anxiety when you're overwhelmed with worry. Skimming through a few lines in the Bible when your mind is in overdrive doesn't significantly impact. Additionally, seeking guidance on how to stop worrying as a Christian online doesn't seem to yield solutions different from secular psychology. I'm not implying that there's anything inherently wrong or sinful about psychology, but if we genuinely believe as Christians that our God is the sole one capable of delivering us, why do we still feel the need for psychology? Amid my challenges, one of the most profound struggles I faced was trusting that God was capable and willing to assist me and desired to do so. Despite lacking tangible proof of his intervention, the profound difficulties I encountered were unmistakable. Interestingly, while I never wavered in my conviction that I was eternally saved through my faith in Jesus, I found it immensely challenging to honestly believe that he intended to rescue me from my current predicament in this earthly life. One of the most significant challenges for Christianity lies in the struggle to provide concrete solutions for believers to face the complexities of everyday life. While Christianity promises the hope of eternity, there is often a need for practical guidance to navigate the trials and tribulations of the present. Though we hear powerful testimonies of individuals being rescued from the grips of addiction and overcoming trials, many of us struggle to see how these stories relate to our own experiences. We may question, how can I also receive this transformation? Or, what's the secret to living a victorious Christian life? As individuals continue to witness these transformative stories without seeing similar changes in their own lives, it can lead to varying reactions within the Christian community, including feelings of disillusionment and disbelief or a renewed commitment to seek deeper understanding through the teachings of the Bible. In my studies at Ansgar, I was struck by the stark differences between the ways of life in Old Testament times and the practices of Christians today. One intriguing example is the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses delivers a speech as he nears the end of his life. At that point, the original generation that left Egypt had all passed away, save for Moses, Caleb, and Joshua. Even though the listeners had not been born when the exodus from Egypt occurred, Moses spoke to them as if they had personally experienced it. When Moses sought to rally the people to claim the promised land, he recounted the astounding miracles their ancestors had witnessed during their exodus from Egypt. Speaking to the current generation, he skillfully conveyed that despite not being physically present for those events, they were spiritually connected to them and could draw strength and faith from their heritage. This approach mirrors how the Jewish community continues to pass down stories of the miraculous deeds performed by God for their forebears as if each subsequent generation had directly experienced those divine interventions. Compare this with how we Christians practice our faith today. When someone experiences a miracle, we are accustomed to thinking, that happened to you, good for you, hope it will happen to me. Just as every time I read a book or heard about someone who had abusive parents as a child but had gotten out of it and been healed, I always thought, good for you, hope it will happen to me. But if we had lived back then with Moses, all those miracles would have happened to us as well, even to those who had not yet been born, and therefore, we would know for sure we can trust God to be with us, help us, and save us in the challenges that lie ahead. Can you imagine how much easier it would be to trust God in our current circumstances if we practiced our faith like Moses? As times have changed, Christians today prioritize individualism over the communal way of living embraced by Moses and the people of his time. There is an apparent emphasis on upholding dogmas and traditions rather than focusing on the teachings of Jesus. The importance placed on having the correct confessions, doctrines, and traditions has led to a reluctance to worship alongside Christians who share the faith in Jesus but differ in their confessions. This attitude makes it challenging for us to find joy in the miracles experienced by other Christians, hindering our ability to strengthen our faith and leading to unnecessary worry. When I made the life-changing decision to follow Jesus and embrace Messianic Christianity, I experienced a profound shift in how I approached worry and anxiety. Each day, I commit to living according to the covenant, following the teachings of Jesus and the guidance provided by Paul. Whenever I open my Bible, I am greeted by a wealth of testimonies illustrating how God has intervened on behalf of people like me who have chosen to live by the covenant. These narratives reveal that God's actions are contingent on individuals' behaviors and stem from the promise he made to prominent figures such as Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses. This promise assures those who adhere to the covenant do not need to worry, as it is rooted in God's commitment to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses. With this understanding, I find it increasingly effortless to set aside worry and focus on fulfilling my end of the covenant, wholehearted obedience. This decision connects me to the same community as everyone else who has lived from the time of Abraham until now and into the future, living by the covenant. It is a relief to know that when I choose to live by the covenant and not worry, I show God that I trust him to fulfill his part of the covenant and his promise given to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Moses. After all, the message of the covenant is straightforward. If you do your part and live by the covenant, then he will do his part and meet all of your needs. Even though I wasn't born when Israel left Egypt, I feel like I was there and witnessed the miracles, plagues, and the parting of the Red Sea. Because of this sense of community, I trust that God will save me from whatever is causing me worry and anxiety. Ultimately, what brings us together as followers of Jesus is living by the covenant rather than the man-made apostolic creed that came into existence many years after Christ's death. Do you, as a Christian, struggle with worrying and anxiety? Have you tried to live by the covenant? If he can save me from my abusive parents and heal me of my past because I live by the covenant, then he can do it for you as well if you live by the covenant.